The outrageous decision by the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, to seek arrest warrants against the democratically elected leaders of Israel is a moral outrage of historic proportions. Notwithstanding the blood libels Mr. Khan has leveled, Israel will continue to wage this war in full compliance with international law. We will continue to take unprecedented measures to get innocent civilians out of harm's way and to ensure that humanitarian assistance reaches those in need in Gaza.
Well, you just heard a bunch of lies from the Prime Minister of Israel. This morning, the International Criminal Court's prosecutor, Karim Khan, announced that he will be seeking arrest warrants for both the leadership of Hamas and a few members of the Israeli government as well. And that includes Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which is why he's so outraged and why he is claiming that he's taking extra measures to keep Palestinian civilians safe, despite the insanely high civilian death toll that we keep talking about on the show day in and day out. Now, we'll get back to the Israeli leadership in a moment, but I wanna, for the purposes of this moment, focus on the charges against Hamas leadership. Now, Khan wants arrest warrants for Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif, the heads of Hamas's armed wing. They're also asking for arrest warrants for Ismail Haniyeh, who is one of the leaders for Hamas's political wing. Now, here is Khan explaining what he is charging those individuals with.
The charges are extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape and sexual assault in detention. So these are the key crimes that are alleged to have been committed by these three individuals. The world was shocked on the 7th of October when people were ripped from their bedrooms, from their homes, from the different kibbutzim in Israel. And people have suffered enormously, and we have a variety of evidence to support the applications that we've submitted to the judges.
So I totally agree with everything he said there. I think that the arrest warrants for the Hamas leadership makes all the sense in the world. There is a difference though in regard to how these arrest warrants, should they be granted? Because remember, they're applying for the arrest warrants, but should they be granted, it will impact Hamas differently from Israel in that Hamas ain't vacationing in Paris, okay? So obviously you would need to travel to an ICC country or a state that recognizes the ICC in order for that arrest to take place. Unlikely for Hamas to do that, but likely for Israeli officials to want to do something like that, to travel outside of the country to another part of the world that recognizes the ICC. So I'll get into more details on that in just a moment. But Cenk, curious what you think about the charges against Hamas.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Well, I mean, I think the charges against Hamas leaders and Israeli leaders are perfectly sensible. If you don't charge those guys, then what's the point of the ICC? So Hamas clearly did a terrorist attack, clearly killed civilians, and sometimes in vicious ways. And Israel has now killed 30 times the number of civilians, oftentimes in vicious ways, and killed civilians on purpose, let alone the starvation, which is actually at the heart of these charges. So there's no question that these are warranted. Now, the prosecutor is asking for the charges to be brought up. The 3-judge panel has to decide for sure. And then there's a question of whether they're going to actually get arrested. There's some interesting history there we can get into in a little bit as to whether people actually do get arrested for this stuff. But mainly, of course, the Israeli leaders are worried about their perception in the world. I don't know why they're still bothering. No, everybody, the jury's in. Netanyahu is a war criminal and a monster, and there isn't anything they could do with the overwhelming PR that they have. They still cannot change that opinion of anyone else in the world other than the deluded leaders of America gorging on donor money.
So I disagree with you a little bit, and it's not about America having Israel's back no matter what, regardless of what type of war crimes are committed. It's more about Israel's thoughts and feelings about being an international pariah. I actually don't think they care at all. I think that Netanyahu and the current Israeli government is far more concerned with ensuring that they have continued support from the United States, which gives them 90% of the weapons that they use in Gaza, 90% of the weapons they have in general. And so as long as they have the hegemonic power of the United States backing them up, I think that's all they care about, because there's been no indication that they're concerned about what the international community has been saying about how Israel has prosecuted this war. They haven't changed their behavior in any way. And the US, of course, is going to continue backing Israel. And we're going to get to that in just a moment, a statement from the Biden administration.
Can I just
go ahead.
On that for a second, Anna? No, you're totally right about that. And so as long as AIPAC has the American government locked down, which they do, then Netanyahu doesn't care about anything. But that's why all of these speeches are made in English, because he's appealing to the American population. He doesn't care about anything else. And that's why he says stupid things like blood libel. I can't stand him saying that anymore. So blood libel was a real and terrible thing that was used against Jews, where the idiots, morons would say like, oh, they're drinking the blood of Christian children and stuff. And Candace Owens recently liked to post along those lines, and stupid anti-Semites say that for time immemorial. But in this case, Netanyahu murders 35,000 people. And then when you go, hey, you obviously murdered them. We saw it all with our own eyes. We saw them being pulled out of the rubble. They were all dead. He's like, how dare you, blood libel? No, brother, that doesn't fly here. You're a disgusting human being, and you're now hiding behind blood libel as a way of protecting your own war crimes. Sorry, I just had to get that out.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. And I mean, it's just more of the same. And we've seen this in different contexts as well, where people who don't want to be criticized for their behavior will weaponize identity in order to shut down any critique or any criticism. But let's actually get to the details about what Khan wants to implement arrest warrants for Israeli politicians. Like, what is the reason? Well, two people would face these warrants. It would include, as I mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The second individual would be Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, which is really a fascinating dynamic, considering the fact that right now Netanyahu and Gallant are kind of at war with one another. Netanyahu wants to occupy Gaza and even allow settlers to build settlements in Gaza after the war is over, whereas Gallant, shockingly, surprisingly, does not want that and thinks it's a really bad idea. But let's listen to what Khan has to say about the charges for these two Israeli leaders.
We'll apply for warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu and also Minister of Defense Gallant for the crimes of causing extermination, causing starvation as a method of war, including the denial of humanitarian relief supplies, deliberately targeting civilians in conflict.
I mean, the US has had to build a pier in Gaza in order to get humanitarian aid to Gazans, and it's still not expected to be enough. So I think that there's a growing body of evidence to bolster the argument that Israel is intentionally blocking humanitarian aid. Also, what I'm curious about is what are the consequences, if any, for the Israeli civilians who would show up to the border with Gaza and light humanitarian aid trucks on fire, a story that we covered very briefly last week. But yeah, Cenk, I mean, look, it's unclear whether the ICC will decide to grant Khan's arrest warrants or not. And in previous cases, the International Criminal Court has taken anywhere from several weeks to months to issue warrants. But I wanted you to kind of step in, Cenk, and talk a little bit about the experiences we've had, historically speaking, when it comes to these types of arrest warrants.
Yeah, so sometimes they do actually work out, but that side has to completely lose power, as happened in with basically the Serbs who had slaughtered people in Kosovo, etc. But they had no backers left, they had no power left, so it was easier to arrest them and to bring them to justice. So when they're people that have a lot of power are issued arrest warrants, Generally, they are ignored, but they restrict your travel a little bit for the countries that might care. But Vladimir Putin has had a warrant for his arrest in the last year under similar charges. Makes sense for what he's done in Ukraine. By the way, you'll see us be consistent on this, whether it's Hamas, Israel, or Russia. You'll see who's lying and who's biased based on them saying yes to Hamas, but no to Israel, yes to Putin, but no to Israel, or vice versa, and changing around, etc. And then in Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, the leader there, was issued a warrant for his arrest as well, very rightfully so. And he still gets to attend some African events where the host country is part of the ICC, and they just make an exception for him. And so that exception makes no sense, but they do because he's still the leader of Sudan. So will Netanyahu and Gallant be tried? They're approximately 0% chance. But I mean, unless Israel turns around massively and then they greatly regret what has happened, which I hope does happen at some point. But boy, those days seem super distant. And so likely this is just more symbolic, and it's the world saying we don't approve. And that's part of why Israel and America are so verklempt over it. And like, how dare you? We're the most moral army. Give it a rest, man. Literally no one outside of the completely deluded Israeli right-wing supporters believes that. No
and
one.
The Biden administration, of course.
Yeah, and of course, and Biden administration and all the kiss-ass Republicans who are all trying to kiss Israel's ass more. But guys, everybody knows it's super embarrassing. You're all taking bribes from AIPAC. You all serve AIPAC. It's just disgusting and pathetic. And
I want to read. Sorry to interrupt you, Cenk. I just wanted to quickly read Biden's statement on this. He did release a statement. Let's go to graphic 5. The ICC prosecutor's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders is outrageous. Outrageous seemed to be the favorite word to describe this. And let me be clear, whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas. Well, I agree with that. I mean, Israel has a proper military with the backing of a superpower that keeps funneling weaponry to them to fight against Hamas, which doesn't have a proper military, does not have defense capabilities, and the people of Gaza are trapped in that tiny strip of land. But he continues to say, we will always stand with Israel against threats to its security. And final thing I'll just mention is the US spokesperson for the Department of State, Matt Miller, had a press conference today and basically made the argument that Khan should have conferred with Israeli leaders before saying that he wants to issue these warrants. He refused to state that Khan should have done the same with Hamas, of course. So with his back against the wall, Miller made some interesting assertions during this presser. Let's watch.
You can conclude, looking at what happened on October 7th, that Hamas intended to kill civilians. That is no doubt. That is without doubt. Absent the jurisdictional questions, it would absolutely be a war crime and a crime against humanity.
I'm just wondering why it's a problem for you guys.
You cannot say the same about the state of Israel.
Yeah, the state of Israel is just withholding food, water, fuel, medical supplies from Palestinians to do what? That's very much intentional. That is their stated policy. So, I mean, why are we building a pier in order to get humanitarian, as America, why are we building a pier to get humanitarian aid to Palestinians?
Yeah,
Come on.
Guys, I used to get super mad and frustrated about the gaslighting that America does on behalf of Israel. I don't anymore. I just find it like sad but amusing. Like, oh no, Israel didn't intend to kill 35,000 people. It was all an accident. Israel didn't intend to drop a 2,000-pound bomb on a residential building and light every person in the building on fire. It was an accident. Really, 25,000 dead women and children, all an accident? Oops, golly gee, I missed again. The Where's Daddy program, where they purposely wait to murder the family members of suspected militants picked by an AI robot. On and on and on. The World Central Kitchen, Hind. I mean, how many murders do you have to see with your own eyes on tape for you to say that they're intending to kill civilians? If you think they're not intending to kill civilians and it's all an accident, you're hopelessly biased. Just
Right.
move on with your life. There's no hope for you in terms of being objective about this issue. You've got hope in many other respects. Just some people are so biased on this, they can't see straight. But for the rest of us, obviously they intend to kill civilians, and they've killed 30 times the civilians that Hamas did. So I agree, there's no comparison. The Israeli government has intentionally killed far more civilians than Hamas. Their war crimes are greater than Hamas's. If that hurts your feelings, you should be super mad at the Israeli government, not the person delivering an obviously true statement to you.
And final update for you all is House Speaker Mike Johnson has stated that they're looking into sanctions against the International Criminal Court over these proposed arrest warrants for Israeli officials. So, United States of Israel, our government very clearly not really working for us, but working on behalf of a foreign government as we speak, because they're so outraged over an international criminal court suggesting that individuals who committed war crimes should be brought to justice. So here we are.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.